Whoa. Pusha T and his brother No Malice just dropped what I think is kind of a bombshell on an interview with GQ magazine. On top of that bombshell, they talk about a few more things, right? The bombshell is they kind of said, yo, Def Jam really ain't want the Kendrick Lamar feature to be on this upcoming album, God, Let God Sort Them Out. And if they did, they wanted it kind of censored. And then on top of that, they talked about a few more things like a potential feature from the God MC, Jehovah. Let's get into it. Now, I had told you boys, you know what I'm saying, that newest record that they let out, the Ace of Trumpet record, it wasn't my favorite record. I see people really like it, love the beat. I think the lyrics are pretty dope. I just don't think it was packing a lot of punch as far as what the record was supposed to entail. And I'm probably anticipating a lot more things from the project. And that's why I'm kind of like, oh, this doesn't do it for me. And that kind of summarizes the whole thing. I'm more excited about the things that are coming up on the project and the features, right? But let's get into it. So they say here, if you expect the album last summer, the brothers sympathized. So did they, right? So they're talking about the low delay on the album. Push says they felt confident, proud, and sure of themselves when he presented the music to Def Jam. The label loved what they heard, except for the Kendrick Lamar's guest feature on the Thunderous Chains and Whips. I want to give a lot of y'all credit. As far as the K-Dot fans are concerned, a lot of y'all did the work and you predicted the name of this record. You went in and saw that UMG struck it down, things like that. So that was interesting. Now, it's important that I know, if some of y'all don't know how this works, Def Jam parent company is UMG. So I just want to point that out. The final version of the song that Pharrell teased at his first LV Runaway show. And the song Pusha says was the first to come out of their sessions. Don't be fooled by Pusha's interviews appealing for one last guest verse and the Twitter jokes that he went on the GNX tour date to physically walk Kendrick into the nearest studio. K-Dot's verse homework apparently has been turned in for a while now. But after a summer of beef between their two biggest artists that resulted in a still ongoing lawsuit from Drake, Def Jam's parent company UMG blanched at the antagonistic optics of two of Drake's biggest enemies linking on wax. Push calls their apprehension stupid, primarily because none of the bars in Kendrick's otherwise excellent verse could really be perceived as a shot or even a subliminal. It does, however, contain the stellar line, "Therapy taught me how to open up. It also showed me I don't give up." Let's talk about this for a second. We'll talk about what Pusha and his brother eventually did, but this is crazy. So Def Jam, their parent company, UMG, so you get how that works, right? They're saying here, apparently, according to Pusha, yo, the optics of two of Drake's biggest op linking up while we dealing with this lawsuit is crazy. And then on top of that, we think some of the lyrics on here is getting at the Afro-Canadian. So Def Jam's like, hey, parent company doesn't like this. We don't like it. Pusha's saying, I don't know what y'all talking about. It's no subs in there. I want Pusha T to look at me and know that I know that he knows that's bullshit. Hey, in fact, this line, tough as hell. Therapy taught me how to open up. That's that whole Mr. Morale big step and shit. But it also showed me I don't give a F is I will go to hell with the Afro-Canadian. That's what Kendrick is saying there. So not a surprise. Let's talk about the fact that we know that this verse is coming up. I like that. What I will say, though, is I like Pusha T, and I'm going to talk about his response here, standing his ground. Because at the end of the day, and even if you're a Drake fan, even if you hate ops linking up, you should want anybody to be able to link up. You should want anybody to be able to team up, do their music. Drake has his own allies, whatever. You should want, you know what I'm saying? Drake then did a verse on Rick Ross, Stay Scheming, getting that Common at the end. You should want that. This is hip hop. But it also alludes to what I actually think the overarching kind of, well, I didn't say that. That's not the right word here. The bigger problem that a lot of you lots have pointed out. When you stated to me, you said, HQ brother, hey, Drake's lawsuit is going to affect the way rap beefs go on. And I was like, to a certain extent, but I think it's from a commercial point of view. I think right now UMG is playing the smart. We in litigation, so we don't want any smoke to affect this case. But I think going forward, it may just remove labels from diss records, which is fine with me. Go diss on SoundCloud. Why I would have a problem though, and I can see your side of things, and I'm with you, is, hey, will labels now be policing every single record? And if that's going to be a downside of Drake's lawsuit, that's not going to work for me, right? People should be able to link up and rap. I don't care. I love rap more than I love any of these other ninjas. People should be able to link up and rap. Okay, let's see what Pusha T said and No Malice said how they handled this. It's a lengthy one, so just stick with me. Pusha can barely contain his disgust, recounting how the stalemate with Def Jam played out. They wanted me to ask Kendrick to censor his verse, which of course I was never doing. I like that. Stand on your shit. He explains. And then they wanted me to take the record off. And so after a month of not doing it, Steve Gawley, the lawyer over there, was like, we'll just drop the clips. Whoa. But that can't work because I'm still there solo. But if you let us all go, I guess he was insinuating there, then I'll go. And sure enough, it says Def Jam eventually agreed to release the clips and drops Push as a solo artist. Crazy. Okay. Numbers and profit margins in hip hop is crazy, but I think having, I understand they're the top 5, top 10 guys that make the label money, but there's people that I think middle of the pack, as far as, the culture of hip hop is concerned, the integrity of hip hop is concerned, pushing his brother on that line. So you being willing to just drop these guys for something that trivial is crazy, but I appreciate Push standing his ground. Anyway, freeing the duo up to shop for a new home with a finished Clips album and plenty more music in their pockets. That's crazy that Def Jam was willing to do that. But anyway, ultimately, Push says the endeavor was gratifying. It felt good to even see how other labels were buying for the project. Now, as they teased last week with a picture in front of the labels playing insignia, they've ended up at Jay-Z's Rock Nation. Okay, so they're teaming up with Jay-Z's Rock Nation, where they feel fully supported and energized. I like that. I think that synergy, just in the rap sense, is going to speak volumes, Push says, of the partnership. So if they're now officially doing business with The Rock, the article says, and the Kendrick verse was never the feature Pusha kept alluding and holding out for, does this mean, as the article says here, we're due for another Push and Jay-Z collaboration? We had a lot of conversations about who washed who on certain records. Push kind of been pushing things a little too far. I think he might have got hold on like 1 or 2 of those records, but I don't know. Whatever. And so there we go. Here it says, does this mean we're due for another Push and Jay-Z collaboration? Push has already gotten a lot of career best from Jay. So it says, we made history a couple times, Push says with a core smirk, referring to the 2 features he's nabbed. And then there's the rest of that. So you can guess that if Kendrick wasn't the feature that Push and No Malice was waiting on, then it's most likely Jay-Z. I'm excited to see that. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is, that Chains and Whips joint was Push's portion, at least of his verse, because we already heard some of that on the LV show, was taking shots at Jim Jones. They asked him about that on GQ. And I kind of wanted to see that matchup because that Jim's response on that freestyle he did was swift, and it was good body shots in there. So I kind of want to see this matchup. So if this Chains and Whips officially drops, I think Jim probably gets right back in the studio. He might have been a little too eggy on that one, too quick. He should have waited, but he probably gonna come in and drop another one. So it says they asked Pusha and No Malice if Jay made his patent screw face when he heard in the music. Push replies, yeah, but you got that on camera already, referring to the crowd shots of Jay reacting to Chains and Whips during the LV show. Ironically, if anybody deserves a speeding ticket for antagonizing other rappers on Chains, like I said, right, it's Pusha, whose verse is a not so thinly veiled response to veteran Dipset rapper Jim Jones, going on something of what's the big deal about Pusha T tour during a run of interviews debating top 50 MCs of all time. Pusha says, I personally never understood what the interviews were about or why my name kept coming up. It's one thing to keep saying I'm a top 50 MC. It's another thing for you not to say that about you, say that you yourself are one, right? No one asked me about a top 50 anything. After about the 3rd interview, I promise, I said, man, he must really want me to know what he thinks about me. And that's how my verse came about. This is what I really think about him. This is what I really, yeah. Oh, man, Pusha, what's Pusha's sign? Sick man. Anyway, yeah, that's the lowdown. Go check out the GQ interview. I think it's a really good one.